thing going. Hope everybody's all right. See what we talking on right here. Got this live premiere for you today. See what we talking about. I'm gonna start this live stream. Rest in peace to Sly Stone. We're gonna get into it. I'm just gonna drop something on you. So everybody's doing good. Okay. So the question is Sly Stone an all-time great artist to you? And it depends on when you came along. What's up? Your timing is perfect. I just got through sending out all my links, subtract all of them. What's happening? How you doing? So I am undivided attention. There will be nothing to getting away from conversation, Q's and A's. Feel free. And feel free to hit that up. And if you don't know who Sly Stone is, I'll tell you. Of course, I just got through seeing Too Raw. Of course it was. He's considered a malcontent. I wrote a note in there because I said, look, Boogie, David Stern, Adam Silver. If you were considered a malcontent, you're like Stephon Marbury. So you're not going to. That's not going to end well. He got into it with George Carl. I know about Boogie. Boogie should have been playing the last 4 or 5 years. The league didn't want him. He spoke out. He ripped George Carl a new one, and he didn't. They didn't want him. And nobody can tell me with a straight face that he couldn't have been as good as Anthony Davis. He's skill set offense. He was like a bigger version of Charles Barkley. He put the ball on the ground. He could score. He could move. He got towards Achilles, I know that, but they also just didn't want him back. That's all. Just like the White. A lot of people don't understand this stuff is scripted. It's rigged. That's another video. But this Adam Silver's not that different than David Stern. And stop letting these people think that the players run the league and it's all this is what they want. It's a plantation. And when people understand how the game goes, don't come at me going, oh, because it's scripted. Well, yeah, I did the Allen Iverson video where he defended her. I'm not gonna touch that with Whitlock because he got something to say about everybody. That's his whole shtick. What's happening? How you doing? As opposed to him just saying that she beat that bigot and she beat that bigot up. And I did talk about that video. I did that video because that chick wanted to say something was foul and got her behind toe up. That's right. And see, when you enlighten, because it messes up the system. And the sad part is there are people who look like us who will look for the worst. Like I watched that BET Awards thing last night, and they was cursing and vulgar, and then praising Jimmy. Can't I'm like Kevin Hart. I'm like, y'all can't talk about nothing. Y'all should be embarrassed. All y'all went to a Diddy party. All y'all then had association with R. Kelly or had association with somebody. Y'all can't sit up here and act like she was more than salty, and they had to check her. She was like, oh, second straight time she done beat the so-called number one seed. Tore her behind up. Yeah, she wasn't just salty. She making excuses. She got her butt toe up. See, and I watched that because they don't really see Coco being, but they did. What's happening? Good to see you, Tom. Good to see you. I think this is gonna be a good poll. Please hit them likes up too, by the way. But I think this poll is gonna be a good one. We get to talking about Sly Stone, and if anybody what y'all know, hmm he was a precursor to a lot of people, a lot of music. I consider him the Bob Marley of funk. They won't. I nice that you saying that, but they won't though, because she got to win a couple more. What these folks will do, right? If you're not commercially appealable, then they got to make you wait till you get about three or four, five. Then they may come on the Tiger had it off jump. I'm gonna tell you about him. He tried though. Actually, that clip with him and Ali, he was kind of like trying to be light, but he was high though. But the thing about it is, he stopped. He stopped. Basically, he stopped performing because she had the right last name and she looked appealable. That's what it was about. And that was kind of like what's the one that married Enrique Iglesias? Anna Scasorson. I can't say her name right. She looks like she eats a lot of raisin bran. I did like the Crunch and Munch. Crunch and Munch raisin bran was my cereal. Yeah, she was just a pretty face, and she came and she went. But yeah, and she couldn't even win a set. And she married Erika, and she was eye candy, and she sucked. Barely could hold the racket right, but blew up. And then she messed with Erika Iglesias. That thing was crazy too. Yep, and yep, Cornucopia. Yeah, and she sucked too. Could barely hold the racket right, but they put money on her. Yeah, well, it's about eye candy too. It's about appeal. You're modeling out there. In just case of your form, you got some wolves in both sides of the clothing. He just, I'll say this only because he didn't win. He had a strong serve, but he didn't really have no game. So I'll give you that. His serve was on fire, but his game was he lacked the game. And they tried hard to put money on him, and he pretty much did his own self in. They tried, they tried, and then they just finally just said, enough of this. Cause his serve was he's like one of those kind of cats that's big but ain't got no strength. So I got a video coming out tomorrow. Yeah, he can play. Um, I got a video coming out tomorrow about kid. I did it pre. What's up? How you doing? Only if he shows me something. Yes, he got to the finals. He did all right in Dallas, but he got to show me something. I'm not. They got to make another move. They want Udoka too. I heard that, but they need to make another move. They gonna have to go after Giannis or something. Just bringing kid ain't gonna be easier. It is easy out the east. It's easy out the west, and except for OKC usually. But you gotta remember something. There's parity. So, I mean, if Boston don't come back straight, um, it's open. What's up? How you doing? What's up? How you feeling? How you living? Welcome aboard today. Everybody's here today. I like this. Yesterday I couldn't argue nobody. Today we got everybody. I like that. I think the Knicks want to, but then they gotta also figure out how they gonna package it. Okay, this the long pass. What you mean? This the long pass? Yeah, I remember Michael Chang. I used to, I'm a tennis fan. I remember him. I can't really even speak on the Packers releasing anybody at this stage. I got to see how I play it. But what's the loan are you talking about? I only like it if they get a Giannis. If they don't get nothing else but Jason Kidd, that ain't gonna be enough to win. I think deep down, Jason Kidd would have loved to have kept Brunson. Oh, you talking about Sly Stallone? It's Sly Stone, not Sylvester Stallone. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. It's Sly Stone. You need to look him up if you don't know him. So I would stay in Dallas too. I don't think the Knicks is a good gig. Not as long as James Dolan is there. I wouldn't leave. No, it's Sly Stone, musician Jay Will. You have to look him up. Let Google be your friend. And if you got a chance tonight, go to YouTube, listen to some of his music. He's the only asset they got. That's the only. It's easy to get it mixed up because you see Sly, and that's how low key Sylvester Sly Stone was in a way to some people. It's crazy. As big as his songs were, they have to. But can you get the pieces? They should be able to get a if you can trade Rudy Gobert and get a 6 piece dinner meal, you should get Brown and get a 6 7 piece. Yeah. No, they're not going to be good or okay. They're going to be suck and whack. Won't you tell the truth? They're going to suck or stink. See, they got DK Metcalf, but Aaron Rodgers, all it takes is a blindsided blitz, and that's it. And they stuck with Randolph as the backup. They're not that good. They what I seen with them last year is an average team. So you bring in a guy who's average quarterbacking. Your coach is already on the hot seat because people want Mike Tomlin gone like yesterday. Okay, and you're not bringing in nothing. Thank you, appreciate it. I gotta. Well, when you said because they're gonna be terrible and whack, they and did I mention? Did I mention? He's in the same division as the Luka Doncic of quarterbacks and Joe Burrows, who he don't wait till like the seventh, eighth game before he decides to get in shape and play. Because Cincinnati got this hangover that they don't play. If Cincinnati starts off mad, you in trouble. Baltimore Lamar, you in trouble. So I don't see nothing good except probably being better than Cleveland, which ain't saying much. I'd say this would be more impressive because Shea's the unanimous MVP. Derrick Rose beat the MVP, but they gave it to him. And LeBron was not. This thing here with OKC is really that good. Um, the thing about OKC, they won 68 games. Yeah, you call it a hot take if you want. Oh yeah, because when we get past the big three, it was funk music. It was funk. Because if you are familiar with Prince and the Revolution, Sly and the Family Stone predated that. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Some of the stuff Michael Jackson did, some stuff Rick James did. It wasn't him, it was funky. And it was the precursor, what he did as a songwriter. Oh, yeah, Roger Clemens is right. Yeah, yeah. Why would you think I'd say Miami against Dallas? That's because of the hype. Yes, Dirk's run was more impressive, but this Indiana team does not have a Dirk Nowitzki. This would be way more impressive. And on top of that, Shea MVP, Western Conference MVP, best player going, arguably 68 win team. That's way more impressive than that Miami team was. They could have should have won the finals. They start off the Miami was 10-8 at one point in that season. When did OKC look that vulnerable? They weren't going for no three-peat because they got they butt waxed in the first round, and Kobe was old. They weren't gonna get no three-peat. Side Stone changed the course of music. I think they're the most important band that America ever produced. They broke down racial barriers and between the sexes with musicianship. Yeah, because contact hitters can bunt, can beat you with nickel and diamond. You power hitters, they just come out there for the big salami. So, of course, he gonna say that, and he right. Because a guy like Clemens would feast on a Mike Piazza, whereas a guy like Ichiro could be problematic. Yeah, because you guys, and I'm gonna tell you something. What he's saying in English, if he pitched today, he'd be even 10 times better than he was. Keep that in mind. Because that's all they do today is either go deep or strike out. I like his chances to pitch today. He'd be scary. Yep, yep. And you can throw Barry Bonds in there too. Yep. Guys like Pete Rose and Ryde. Mm-hmm. That's a lost art today in baseball, but they don't care about that because they're getting paid to go deep. People ain't even caring about average no more. There are things that they do today they didn't do back in the day. Pretty much. He ain't school no Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds said the only person that he ever worried about as a pitcher was Maddox. Because Maddox could manipulate with speed. He won't worry about Clemens. But Clemens changed his whole mindset when he got to Toronto. He had that off speeds pitching. He changed his whole delivery. He was a different pitcher, and that's why he endured. Because forget all this talk about some juice. The guy could flat out pitch. He changed his delivery. He was not the same pitcher. Roger Clemens was kind of like on some Tom Cruise tip because he reinvented himself and kept it going. Sure, he was. Because he got robbed out that World Series. It wasn't on him. It's just that they had unfortunate. Yeah, it was. That thing, when he was in Toronto, I'm telling you, before he came to the Yankees, that stuff was dropping. And I was like, wow. And I just thought he was just going to be a meat and potatoes pitcher, but he added so much to his repertoire. Of course, he was intimidating with his pitches, but he knew his stuff. He knew his stuff. And that's why I hold him in high regard like I do. Because the longevity was no joke. And he pitched great everywhere, all the way to his end in Houston. He was just that good. Yep. He said it was Maddox. Because Maddox would throw you that all speed drop on you. Yes, Clemens has a little size to him. And then he would get into his cadence. Yeah, I remember all that. I remember. I saw those guys when they played. I go back with them. And them guys was bad. Clemens was like gonna be like a 2.0 Nolan Ryan. Yeah, Glavine hit you with some some interesting combinations. And then when he adjusted speed, that's what people don't understand. Cats were more effective with all speed pitches than they were throwing hard. Yeah, pitch clock makes you work quicker because when those guys, you back in the day, you get stuck with a guy like Jim Tomei, you be out there like 30 minutes by the time the turkey decides to put his helmet on. It works, but it doesn't work for all pitchers. You got to know how to hit the zone zone. It doesn't work for everybody, but it speeds it up a bit. But it still comes down to fundamentals, though. So I remember all them guys. That was incredible era of pitchers. Yeah, he added when he got to the National League. That's what he really impressed me when he got to Houston. Uh, you know what? That's a tricky proposition because he didn't fell off to you get second tier parts. But then again, he still is he cries enough to get on the All Star game. So He's a tricky proposition. He's holding the leverage. It's just a matter where he would want to go. But if I'm him, I wouldn't leave Atlanta. That's why I hold him in the regards I do. I remember how dominant he was. They could, and they used him as the token one as far as the not getting the Hall of Fame. But they know that guy was the business though. That's absurd. He had counter pitches. He was legit. The Hawks don't really have. Yeah, the problem is with Trey is that he's a coach problem. So it's like, where would you trade him? And you want some assets for him. So I don't know. Strangest thing is he could end up with the Lakers. Wouldn't that be something him and Luca played? That would be the craziest. But I don't think that's gonna happen. But I could see him going out west though. I could, but I wouldn't trade a lot for him though. Cause that little token All Star games he be getting, it ain't worth. It ain't worth. It ain't worth giving up the farm for him. But he's a handful, and I don't know if people want to mess with him. I don't know. That don't mean nothing. Cause the problem with him is that he turned the ball over too. Don't put him in the same sentence with nothing with no John Stockton. Because Trey is not that memorable. He's overrated. And the only reason why he not getting real Q more is because Luka Doncic is kind of till he gets into gear with the Lakers wherever he go. But he ain't really down it. Well, see, you can't even say all that because if you say a Hall of Famer and you call him the Robert Ory pitchers, he's clutch. And I do agree with that. Regular season, that would have to be a 200 plus wins. I think it's got a lot of work to put to that. But he's in my really good list, though. And I loved his pitching because in well, Yankees needed game two to win, he was clutch. He was good in Houston, too. So, but I don't know. He might. He said he did some juice, and ain't nobody going to hold it against him. So, I don't know. He was one of my favorite Yankee pitchers, though. So I don't know. But I don't want to. If you're a Hall of Famer, I can't call. I can't say you're a Robert Ory pitchers because if I say that, then that means that you're just a bench cat, and you're just like It's kind of like being like Chuck Knobloch. So I gotta kind of be cool because the feds was coming on his cheeks. That's what's up, yo. Wait, just like that Diddy runner. Diddy's runner, the drug runner. What you think? They come at you. They say, "Look, you better say something." Even though Rafael Palmaro gave them the fingers and was like, you. But, they come at different cats with different proposals. But the thing is, all it does is if he had the right attitude, he spent too much of his time fighting labor. See, this is the thing. I love AI as a player and all that, but he'll never be better than Isaiah Thomas. No shape, form, or nothing. He could have been more talented, but no, because he didn't listen. And that's the fact. He played hard and he gave you all the street spots, but he didn't listen. I told you, Shaquille O'Neal aside, Larry Brown used the same blueprint and gave it to Chauncey Billups against the Lakers. And Iverson was a better player than Chauncey, but he wasn't smarter. Oh yeah, you always do. Baseball good to me. Baseball good to me. I saw him. Rafael Palmaro was the most gangster since I did. Yeah, I was laughing at them hearings, and then Mark McGuire looked like an old librarian. Like, put his glasses on, like, But first of all, it's Cap. It's Cap. Because Bud Selig, with his old foggy eyes, knows good and well he came out there in '97 and had Glavin and Clemens talking about chicks. dig the long ball. Not Clemens. He had Maddox and Glavin walking by with their Braves uniforms on, walking by McGuire. You know, good and well, they need to get booties in the seats, and he did whatever he did. He did. McGuire had them glasses on. He's like, oh, let me. Uh. I was cracking up. That thing was hilarious. Rafael Palmaro looking like Tony Orlando. Had his mustache like looking like. If you don't know who Tony Orlando is, it's more like George Lopez. Mustache all fiery, like, and I was cracking up. No, no, because Dikembe ain't Shaq, and then you stuck with what? Yeah, he did. Man, he did. Man, he kept them all the way for a long time. No, because Kobe needed. Larry Brown would have been a stickler, but it'd have been tough for him. It'd have been tough for him. Everything in LA worked out perfectly. Phil Jackson's attitude is different than Larry Brown's. Shaquille O'Neal to Kimbe, all due respect to Kimbe, come on now. And then Derek Fisher and Rick Fox. Who did the Sixers have that's gonna see D Fish? You gonna tell me Pookie Snow? I like Pookie, but come on now. He make D Fish like almost a runner, a reserve all star. No, Gibson, Clemens, Randy, Maddox, but you forgot about Pedro Martinez. See, the running joke is they thought Piazza was soft. And Piazza, one of them old Paisan Italian dudes, was like, "Oh, Guido, and see, that's why they clowned him. They clowned him. They clowned him. They clowned him. 85 Gooden. Because that year was magical. I mean, he was just, he looked like, you know, and I looked at that team with him and Daryl Strawberry, and I thought, oh man, those guys were going to be golden. They would have been the Shaq and Kobe of baseball. I mean, they did win a ring with the Yankees 10 years later, but it wasn't the same. They won with the Mets. They were a duo. They were the outcasts of outcasts. He did pitch against somebody. He was a dominant pitcher. His ERA spoke for itself. He was huge for Boston. Pedro was so great in Boston, they almost forget about Clemens. That's how great he was in Boston. Let that sink in. He was that good. Pedro was X for them, man. Well, I like Ron Guidry's 77. That 25-3 was special, but Goodens was, man. It's hard to say. It's hard to say, but it's up there though. I'm gonna tell you, it was up there. Yeah, it's just that Dwight Gooden looked like he was gonna be where Pedro is. He looked like a Bob Gibson and like the link between Bob Gibson and Pedro was Dwight Gooden. That was amazing. Because there was a time he was in the same sentence with Roger Clemens when they did Do the Right Thing, and Spike Lee said that he at that time, yeah, the drugs, the lifestyle, being young, and he got to, and it's a sad part because he was bad. He went to Toronto too late, but let's keep it 100. Um, you go to Toronto and you don't, you know, you don't. What's the word I want to use? You don't get the same fanfare as if you win in New York. Oh well, most of that's the case. Same thing with Strawberry. Them guys were wild, and if you ever read Daryl Strawberry's book, that was wild. They talked about doing it in the dugouts and all kinds of freaky deaky. They were wilding, yo. They were wilding, but that was part of what they had. You know, he but nobody cared. He was nice and conservative guy. He's just like the DeSantis of baseball players. He's the DeSantis basically. Sal's Pizzeria, that kind of pie zone, all pro Italian and all in your face and conservative and just a fright and all kinds of just kind of just debauchery. But because he carries himself a certain way political, and his godfather was Tommy Lasorda, he got some hookup. So, but Pizza Man is what we used to call old Piazza. He could hit. That's what he tried to fight against. That's exactly what he was fighting against because he was caught with that Playboy model, some mess. But Piazza was always called out for that, though. That's why Clemens threw that bat at him, was making fun of him, and they treat him like they did. They basically Dwight Howard him. Not really. Piazza had a great career. He's a great hitting catcher. He's one of the 10 greatest hitting catchers ever. And Bagwell could flat out hit. And they did lead the Astros to that World Series. They lost to the White Sox. Bagwell could play. Why is it crazy? Bagwell had one of the best on base percentages ever. If you look him up, it's only crazy was because of look at what they look like. Look at the complexion for protection. Paul Mooneyism. They won't do that because first of all, Barry was a mean black man. Okay, Ortiz shuffled his feet. He got in. He shuffleboard. Rafael Palmaro, I'm gonna tell you about Palmaro because he doesn't have anything distinctive about him. Yeah, he got 3,000 hits, 500 home run. He wasn't a distinctive player, so they just kind of look at somebody like that. Um, Clemens, usually redneck, but he must have said something wrong. They not gonna mess with Bagwell because Bagwell had enough stats. They let that in. They pick who they want. Carlton Fisk had that moment with the Red Sox with that home run, and he came. That's why he gets in. Oh yeah, they'll do him like they do Pete Rose. That's how corny and backwards they are. That's what they do. Because this is like they mourn you when you're gone, unless you're OJ Simpson. But that usually that's the game they play. If you're OJ or if you're Michael Jackson, they'll never let you just rest in peace. But usually that's what they usually do. He was very good once upon a time. Hall of Fame, that might be a bit, but for his time, but he's one of those guys that it didn't stay consistent. But he was bad for a while. But they changed the rules. I don't think he would say anything because he's busying himself. He's getting back to his community in Oakland. Him and his daughter, I mean, on the base, so he's not really tripping on it. I think he'd like to get in, but I don't think he's gonna make a beeline to get in. Unless of course he's decided to, he only gives a handful of interviews. He did all that smoke, and anytime he does an interview, which is rare, so he ain't really breaking his neck to do it. Rice had some moments, and if they're using that as a criteria, but again, they made Jim Rice wait for a long time too. So, but Rice was in an era where if you could get 300 to 400 home runs, you got a chance to get in a lot quick. Get in. Criteria is different now, so it depends on who we talking about. But it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. The Hall of Fame's a joke. If you don't have Bonds and Clemens in with a lot of these cats going on, it doesn't even count. So I don't even waste my time. Pete Rose should have been in too. But baseball's full of it though. So what you expect? Yeah, he was. But we talking great. We ain't talking about how good. We talking great. And he had moments. You know, there's no need to back down because everybody know what's up. It's just that Bud Selig, whatever was going on, we don't talk about the juice balls. We don't talk about the bouncing ballparks. There's a lot of things that contribute to just all the balls going out the park, and it's not just on the guys if a guy took something or not. There's other factors involved. Pete Rose was great. Jim Rice was good, but Pete Rose was great. There's a difference. And see, this is the problem. It used to be the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Good or Pretty Good or Almost Very Good. You had to be to earn your keep. Not this. We gonna bend the rules because we bringing in certain people like Scott Rowland, and Harold Baines. I mean, come on now. That's not Hall of Fame. That's Hall of You Good, or you had some out of body moments. That's not Hall of Fame. If you of a certain age and you watch baseball a certain time, you know the difference between cats that belong and cats that there's no way they might make their uh local local town hall of fame and they may make their school hall of fame. They don't make the main. Oh yeah, it's tough. It is tough. A lot of things have to go in and you have to work hard. Oh yeah, it's tough. Used to be more tougher because of the decades and the different nutrition and the leagues are more watered down. Well, he didn't get elected either. I'm gonna start Sterling Sharp. I'm gonna bench Michael Irvin, and I'm gonna cut Chris Carter. Because if Sterling Sharp had been healthy, his career, he's better than Michael Irvin. That's it. Because Eli Manning to me is I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Let's Do It Again. Jimmy Walker played this character named Bootney Farnsworth, and in the movie, Sidney Poitier hypnotizes him, and he says, "You are a tiger," and he makes him tough, and he knocks, and then he can't do nothing. Eli is only good in the postseason. That regular season, he just average at best. But the postseason is unlike he was under some hypnosis. He go crazy. After Sox let him go, he said he hung off speed. Okay. Oh, he is. He got. They're gonna acknowledge him finally. Oh yeah, I just got through saying Sterling was the business. If y'all look, as great as yeah, well, you remember the Bootney Farnsworth? That's what makes Eli Manning comes to mind. It's like he's under some hypnosis because he don't do much during the regular season, but it's that postseason for that late December to the February. It's like he becomes a different man. That's it. Yeah. Sterling was the business. As great as Shannon was, he was three times better than Shannon, and Shannon knows too. Sterling was bad. Sterling was so bad he used to wear Sterling around his neck. He was a bad dude. And just as good as Irvin. Anybody you want to mention outside of Jerry Rice, he'll stink. What you mean? How he'll do? Shoot, you think he gonna go in there and do better than Russell Wilson, Justin Fields? You really think so? I mean, the guy got sacked by his butt and was out for a whole season 2 years ago. What do I expect him at 41 to be any better than he was 2 years ago? First time he starts throwing picks, they're not better than Baltimore and they're not better than Cincinnati. If Cincinnati if if Joe Burrows don't do the usual Luka Doncic out of shape and tired first 6 weeks, that's gonna be a problem for Pittsburgh. They're not coming out. They're already the third best team in the division. So that's a strike problem there. But he's still not a Hall of Fame. What you want, a cookie? He's not a Hall of Fame. Yeah, Flacco was too. He hit that fluke against Denver. But that's not Hall of Fame. That's a cat that caught fire at the right time. That's not Hall of Fame though. Yep. And they both of them is streaky. Both of them could get benched. And both of them just kind of got those moments. because neither one of them is memorable when we talk top 10 quarterbacks ever. Joe Fluco, you know, he hit big. Like he would start off good in September, and then by the end of Halloween, all the way to December, he sucked. Well, the difference between that, Nick Foles was a backup quarterback. There's a difference. But the funny thing about Nick Foles, he fit Philadelphia better than Carson Wentz. That was the scary part. Flacco and Eli were starters. Nick wasn't no starter, but Nick felt he fell in line. Yeah, Cat's using like a one, and don't compare it to no Dirk Nowitzki because I see where this could go. Dirk's a great all-time player. No one sits around and debates Eli Manning as a great all-time quarterback. Nobody, except Giant fans. He looked like there was something. That's not too a surprise, actually. Something about his beard and him don't look quite that good. I'm just saying. I don't know what it is, but something looks like it could be in the system. Something seems a bit off. I kind of felt that. Oh, that's a nice run, but I mean, that's not going to make me sway to say he's Hall of Fame because he ain't. I could say about Jim Plunkett before him. Jim Plunkett had good runs. And basically, Eli last name and his complexion is the only difference between him getting lumped with Jim Plunkett. And if you don't know who Jim Plunkett is, go Google him. What Tom will tell you about Jim Plunkett and Eli. Yeah, but he been looking kind of like I don't couldn't quite tell. Couldn't quite tell. Like but I felt something was been going on though. So I don't know. I just gotta send prayers and thoughts. That's all. Anyway, it's getting lively in here though. That's good. Everybody's agreeing about Sly Stone. I'm glad to see that. Keep hitting them likes and keep hitting that poll up. Good to see that Sly Stone's getting his well wishes. I didn't even know Ashante had a podcast. Thanks for letting me know. Playoff runs of what? Did you not hear of a guy named Tom Brady and Joe Montana? Did you not hear of a guy named Patrick Mahomes? Playoff run? These guys is what we call middle of the road quarterbacks who hit struck oil in a dark light. I did a video about it already, Ted. And they lied and said he didn't pay his tab. It was all kinds of stories going on, but it was, you know, if I had never seen great quarterbacks have playoff runs like Joe Montana or somebody like that, you might could have a point. But now, these are middle of the road cats that happen to hit, but they're middle of the road. Oh, of course they were. But no one is going to talk about Flacco as being great. He had a run. It's not the same. It's not a Hall of Fame career. What makes you think he gonna do something that he ain't been able to do the last 5 years? But when he gets sacked and starts throwing those fluky Flacco, that's what I call him. He starts throwing those pick sixes like he did last year across the pond, wherever he was. You'll see what I'm talking about, Aaron Rodgers. I don't care about Dallas's backup quarterback because he's gonna have to fool around and learn how to start. Dak's about ready to break down. We used to call him Joe Fluco. That was my nickname for him. Yeah, well, you got some movies. You got the Disney Channel because that's the only way you going. You watch Airbud. There you go. If you like Airbud does Dallas, maybe you have hope. You ain't gonna have no run. Third best team in that division, and AFC North, I mean NFC North is stacked. The West gonna have somebody. Eh, You're not gonna. You're no. Yeah, you know what we talked about, what Brady did, what Montana did, what Mahomes did. You know, cast that built runs, not these guys who were borderline get ready to get cut. If Eli Manning didn't do well in the postseason, do you know? Remember, he lost his job to what's his butt that's now with the Raiders. That was with the Seahawks. Who took him 30 years to learn how to play quarterback, by the way. What's his name? He was with Seattle and he just got traded to the Raiders. So, you remember that he took his job with the Giants. And Fluco, I mean, he's just a journeyman. He ain't been nowhere, neither one of them. No, it wasn't no girl back. I'm talking about the one that's with the Raiders now. He got traded from Seattle. He's the one who broke Eli Manning's consecutive streak because they benched him because Ben McAdoo benched him because Eli was stinking it up. It was about, uh, you know what I'm talking about. And he was with Seattle. And it took him like 30 years to learn how to play quarterback, too. Anyway, he's with the Raiders now. But anyway, uh, Kyle Shanahan got to finish up. Purdy might be the one of the few people they can get, but they got to finish up. How many more chances they gonna get? They choked two Super Bowls with two different quarterbacks, so that's embarrassing. Y'all know what I'm talking about. He's playing with Seattle last year quarterback. Can't think of his name right now, but he's with the Raiders now, and he was a journeyman for a long time. That's what Eli basically, you know. I don't get excited about cats that were dangling and they got hooked up one time. Well, yeah, my three all-time greatest quarterbacks is Montana, Brady, and Mahomes. Those are my three all-time greatest. They're the only three. Yeah, Geno Smith. And Geno Smith took Eli's job. Was it 2017, 2018? Sat his butt down. So when you lost a job to Geno Smith, who was whack before he actually came to Seattle, I don't know what they gave him, but you know, I'm just saying. So no. So that is the thing right there, as far as that. These cats that win, but again, no one looks at Flacco and Eli. That's why it's if they gotta debate you a Hall of Famer, you're not. If we gotta, it's I will give Skip Bayless credit on that statement. You either are or you aren't. There ain't no well, we gotta think about it because yeah, I hold Joe Montana in high regards. It took somebody like Brady to come along, and it takes a guy like Patrick Mahomes. Those three are in their own, and everybody else is at that. I don't know if they would have beaten Dallas though. I don't know. But had he gone and won a Super Bowl in Kansas City, yeah, there would be no question he'd been the GOAT. Period. NFL in discussion. Yeah, and he sucked before he got with him because I tell you, like I said, it took that guy like 20 years to be legit. That was like when I first heard him going, I said, "Who? He's still around?" And when he took over for Eli and they benched him, yeah, I didn't forget. Yeah, you see, you loyal fan, huh? Beat my bills like you can't even remember when y'all was. Yeah, no, we wasn't gonna beat Dallas that time. He had bad games in the big game. What was that one playoff game against Baltimore where he got toe up? Got toe. It was one of the playoff games. But as far as like where he made himself look bad, no, it was '93. I remember because I'm a Bills fan. We beat y'all, and Bruce Smith pretty much exited Tom Brady's career with them sacks. Kind of like around the same time when Lawrence Taylor got whipped up on by the 49. Well, no, it was a playoff game, but him and Marcus Allen. I don't know if they would have beaten that Cowboys defense. I don't think so. Charles Hayden were coming. I don't think so. No, I was. I remember it like yesterday. Shoot, Bills went to four straight Super Bowl. You think I'm gonna forget that? And I remember how we won our games too. And I had much respect for Joe. Joe was one of the coolest quarterbacks, one of the coolest athletes I ever seen. Period. And I had much respect for Marcus Allen. So they would have beaten him. But you always kind of, I don't know, it's something about that Montana magic. You always kind of gotta wonder what he would have been like. He never was in that situation, so we won't know. That guy was cool under pressure, though. He was 101. But that Cowboys back then would have been, yeah. Oh, wow. Why? Because I want my Bills to lose to them? No, you don't. But if Montana had gone and beat Dallas, that would have been incredible. Then that would have been a great way to walk out. So I remember like yesterday. I remember just like yesterday. Nah, it wasn't gonna be cut for like that. That would have been something else. There was tension between both of them, and that would have been something else. And I would have been pulling for Montana. Yeah, they ran it in Kansas City with the coach. It's a trip when you think about that. Yeah, he did good, and he did good in Kansas City. You know, you can win money if you got a good bet. If you got a good bet. I never won that kind of money in the Super, but I won money on Super Bowls before, but not that kind of money. I didn't bet against. I didn't bet on too many Super Bowls though. As this commentators, this is funny. Oh, you talking about their profession? If you're talking about their professional career, if you're talking about based on their professional career, then you got it in order. Listen, I don't listen. I'm gonna tell you like this. Let me get something straight about the first two. Steve Young was a very good quarterback. He came a long way from when he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because he sucked when he first came out. Went to USFL, came back to 49ers. He could run. He was mobile. He gets more credit than Doug Flutie and some credit for his mobility. And he figured it out. He had a really good career. Um, CP3 was really good early career. He just didn't do nothing in the postseason. That's all. If his postseason career was half as good as his regular season career, we'd be looking at him as a top six point guard ever. It just didn't happen. That's all. I don't say nothing about the last one. She was an attractive woman, and that's all I'll say. No talent, but she was good on mute. I'll keep on mute. Well, that was huge when he beat Kansas City, but that was an ugly. Yeah, I remember that mess because that's the reason that saved his behind. Because when he was with Tampa Bay, he sucked. And what the media don't tell you is how they were hard on black quarterbacks. He couldn't carry Doug Williams' clipboard back then. Doug, you know how you talk about you couldn't come from a black college and play pro ball? Doug came out and played and led that team to an NFC Championship game. Steve Young was just horrible in Tampa Bay, but he went to LA Express. They overpaid him. It was like a minor league before he came back to the 49ers. They got him schooled up. He came back better. Well, he came up big in that Super Bowl. That against Kansas City, he was big. So he was mobile. He wasn't running though. He wasn't running like that. He wasn't. Let me give you a name. He wasn't like Vince Evans. Okay, that's a running quarterback. You want to go back in time? Remember Chicago Bears Vince Evans? That one mobile. Doug Williams didn't play like that. Doug just basically beat you with his arm strength. He could move, but he threw that rock. I remember when he had Jimmy Giles and Ricky Bell. I saw Steve Young's behind going in and couldn't do jack. But they polished Steve Young up, and then when he came back with the 49ers, he was a better quarterback. Just saying. People don't want to, you want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. His arm, you saw that in the Super Bowl against Denver. And that was one of the most, dare I say, school was in session because all that hype about John Elway, Doug was throwing darts, yo. He was landing. And all that hype about John Elway. And he was a great quarterback. Elway's one of the five or six greatest, one of the six greatest quarterbacks ever. But Doug Williams for one afternoon said school is in session. He lit into that behind. So, and that's all I'm saying about that. Because when people be on their high horse about, you know, Warren Moon was a better quarterback. He got white ball by the NFL. He's a better quarterback. But I love Doug a lot though. But Moon, come on, man. Moon came into the NFL his rookie year and was like in the right between Montana and Marino for like percentage or something. His rookie year. So yeah, they both had something the other needed. If you put Moon's overall talent with Doug Williams' poise, you'd have one of the five greatest quarterbacks ever. He did. Because if you remember, when they had AB and he hit them bombs, he threw them same exact passes to AB that he hit with Moss. And that was because he had a guy who could run them kind of routes. His strength. His strength. Because remember that almost that sack at the Super Bowl, the end of the game, and he burst all those tackles? He was a lot strong. He was built. He was built. McNair was built. And he was tough. I remember that play. It's just that when he got to Baltimore, it was a different cadence, but that guy was strong, yo. And he had a good arm. I mean, he had an arm. I remember he could throw that thing because he was Eric McNair, but his strength, oh, that guy was like, he was like Baby Hawk on you. he had to distill 600 pounds because they was getting ready to sack him. And he still got that ball 1 yard short to Derek Mason. I'm telling you, McNair was tough. It's just that he never had the right pieces around him. That's all. Let's say you hang out with someone and that same person was around someone disrespecting you, but they want to be friends with you. No, because I don't mess with folks that are acting funny and janky. I don't do janky. Someone's not gonna defend my honor. And if I'm gonna defend their honor, I'm gonna tell you like this. I love you like I love you like you're my hands. And if I got love and respect for you, it's called love and hate. You remember and do the right thing? Love and hate. So if I love you and I'm with you, I'm gonna stand up for you. But if I can't stand you, we ain't gonna be able to mix. So I don't do that. So someone standing there letting someone disrespect, they're not your friend. And unless they diffuse the situation, but you just don't want to be around people that you gotta question stuff. You know, people talk. Yeah, because unless of course they're saying something that that other person that you're cool with diffuses it, you're gonna always wonder what was said. So sometimes sometimes only time I would say that they're not supposed to say nothing if they're trying to not to provoke you and they can diffuse it. Sometimes it's better if you do it in that regard. But if it's something in general, they supposed to open up their mouth. So I'm just saying. So I don't condone the quietness. Got to speak your from now. Speak or hold your peace. Yeah, he's at the talking about Giannis and Giannis and Durant yesterday where they should go. Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, if someone agrees with you in private, then it's like, why are you what you living for? Because if you can't say it outwardly, then you're holding it inward. So I don't know what you're about. Yeah, Stephen A. I mean, he's trying to get everything towards New York. He don't want to tell the truth. Nobody wants to go mess with James Dole, and he's all the stuff. That's all it is. And he gets all upset when someone calls him out. That's why he got hooked up with that job over Michelle Beadle, which is a trip. Ain't no advantage in this series. They gotta play like they gotta play like their butts on fire. If they go in there and try to be all cool, they get their butt ran off. They are not equipped to beat OKC playing even Steven. That means the problem with them is this. I think Halliburton is legit. Sock'em is a strong sidekick, but they don't have no offensive fire. But they don't have nobody in it that's a 25 point a night man. If they did, they'd win this series convincingly. Because actually, the same thing that makes them intriguing is the same thing that works against them. No Reggie Miller, no Paul George type of guy that could just go off. That's the only because they got guys that get hot. but they're not consistent. But they're good enough to beat a lot of teams. But this team here with OKC, hey, Shea's gonna go off. If Chad Hogan goes off and Caruso comes big, it's gonna be a tough series to come back with. I ran into something like that with friends over the years. I asked them not to involve me with their beefs if they are my friend or friend. Well, if they got beef about something, I want a friend to talk it out because it could be something that's really serious. I did a video about that. That's coming out because Fraud Jamar got called out, and Fraud Jamar is like a lot. He went for the bag. But see, I'm not surprised by him because he had a lot of disdain for Kamala Harris. He didn't want a woman run the country. He got a lot to say. I agree with his takes about Eminem. I'm not a big Eminem fan, so I gave him props on that. And he said some things I thought that were cool. But the whole thing about running back to Vlad, who known Vlad is a known, he's like a plant. Cats go on Vlad's show and they get locked, all kinds of stuff. But that's just a bad look, especially when you and Godfrey was making the bag. But here's a good example why black folk don't get along out here in these streets. Because when the money, because you get ego, and and you start talking about the earth being flat, and Jamar just talk crazy. But he is Hollywood anyway. I mean, he was on The Sopranos. He had that episode. He does. He's got a SAG card, so I'm not surprised. He's an actor, and he's a Trump supporter and all that. And he likes the limelight. Take too much work and too much money and time to sell this broadcast. So we gotta get him where he fit in. And they know what Vlad's about, but they just feel like you can't, But I agree with Godfrey. That was a bad look. But Jamar ain't got no shame. Most of them don't. That's why I tell you all the time it's Hollywood Plantation. Cats fake the funk on TV and they play like they deep until stuff goes down. Then all of a sudden they got their highest bidder. Like, yeah, it's a boss. So I'm not shocked. That's all it is. I remember the episode he was on The Sopranos because he took one in the they got to put a he got hit one of the episodes. He done acting. He did an episode on Pierce Morgan show. So cats be bought and paid for. So that's not a surprise. Show me the ones who don't get bought and paid up. Then that's when I'm excited. But most of the Hollywood cats, they scream quicker than they girl to get a dollar. Because Trump is trying to create tension and he's flexing on Newsom. That's nothing but a flex. And what's Newsom gonna do about it? And a lot of people that with that whole thing voted for him, so you can't even cry when he comes out and says what he gonna do. I did a video about it. And I'm saying, look, y'all know that idiot was gonna do what he did, and that's what y'all support. So because these cats are bought and paid for, you know, they bought and paid for. And when they don't, and I was done with Jamar when he was talking about Kamala Harris, like a woman couldn't run for president. He said, "We go to war with." I'm like, you sound old and antiquated. I said, "Did you not have a mother? Did your mother not have?" I'm not saying your mother had to go there and play the tough role, but you up here gonna disrespect somebody over that? And so I'm like, whatever. Well, yeah, it's that fake New York acting tough guy crap that goes on too. Because those cats will do anything for a dollar and a holler. But the thing in LA, tell you, it's not my problem. You know who people voted for it? They didn't listen to when folks told them. Black folks tried to tell them, say, no. I was upstate New York, but you from the city. But I know that fake New York, them cats always play that role. Just like when hip hop went all down south, but they allowed it. They talk all that talk, but who was repping New York? They had people like Fat Joe and Diddy and some of these people who ain't got no business being. Man, they always take stuff that is so cliche and then they roll with it and say, "Oh yeah, this is how we rap." But I'm not surprised by Jamal until someone flips on him, and then he'll get, Vlad will do something dumb, and I'm indifferent with Stephen A. So I don't pay him. I pay him mine, but he trying to do too much, so that's not gonna work. Mm. Okay, hope everybody's still on. But I got real quiet, so let me know if you're still on or not. Good poll with Sly Stone. Good conversation today too. I will definitely be on tomorrow. Um, because it's like it's almost like clockwork that they're gonna say something that they talk too much. That's usually it. They really worrying about stuff. They try. It's a distraction. It's a tactic. They go on, and then it's kind of like, okay, you can chill, and it's like they want to beat a horse, and they don't get that you just done with it, but they still about it. So, mhm. I've had different situations. I will share this with you. So I had a church group, and there was a woman that was trying to talk about men being deadbeats, and trying to make this whole kind of story. Anyway, I called on her because we're in a church group and did this online. I said, you can't be using that kind of. And the opportunist aspect is had the nerve to say, well, if I do this again, forgive me if I do this again. That's opportunity because you're opportunist that you're going to try to make light of a bad situation to justify to manipulate what you're about, and that's not a smart, healthy person. But they're opportunistic enough to try that. It's like they once they get their foot in the door, then they'll try to justify it being at the door. So I avoid those kind of situations. So I hope that kind of helps because they've been able to be pushy and no one tells them no. I had this happen in a church type of setting. They went through vulnerable, they went through pain. Um, I'm not gonna call them weak or nothing. I just went through something that was, you know, you know, but it's a manipulation that they get to do what they want to do. And next thing you know, they got carte blanche. And if people don't tell them no, then they make you weak because then you become vulnerable and then you end up being seduced by, well, you're not being sensitive. I had a crazy, crazy story, which I have to tell you another time, but it pertained to the church thing. It was crazy. And it was like, I didn't want to be part of that mess. So I was like, I don't want it. But see, some people felt bad because they don't want to tell somebody that they're violating the cause. But that's what happens, though. And they manipulate. It's not just playing on your weakness, it's playing on your vulnerability. But see, this is the thing. They're not always saying yes. They play on if they can get towards something that they want. It's like they try to take a different shortcut. Mine was a very unique situation because it wasn't playing on a weakness. It was playing on the spirituality, but selective morality. See, the spirituality what we were presenting was one thing, but selective morality is what they were hoping to get a carte blanche. They were hoping to get like a pass for their human flaws, which they were able to do. And when I call them out on it, I'm the one that somehow got subjected to, well, you being too mean. And I left them alone. Well, this opportunity situation I with was from spiritual because it was the same thing but with a twist. It was actually, can y'all forgive me because I'm a sinner? trying to be a Christian. And it was real twisted. Well, we're talking the same lingo, but this happened to be in a church type of thing. So imagine somebody saying, because I'm flawed, I can talk about the parties. Because I'm flawed, I can talk about the groupie. Use that as a meme because this was a twisted thing, but I told her, I said, no, we nipping that in the bud now. I ain't gonna go for that. So I dashed from it. Meanwhile, the people I know who still run the group, the said person, she's still saying off the wall things, and they have never curved it. So they use it against you, and every time they come, it's always kind of like there's that possibility because got a pass to get away. That's opportunities too. You get a pass. If you don't give someone an opportunity to infiltrate or impose their will onto your beliefs and your situation, they won't. You nip it in the bud. But if you don't, it festers and it plays on. So that's an opportunity too. That's another way of defining it because that was used as an opportunity and played on the vulnerability of the Christian aspect. That's my story on this one. I know what you're talking about in different. I used it from what I expect, but I had to get that out of there. I did, but the people who ran the house didn't. I did. Um, Matter of fact, one woman that she said she didn't say what the woman said, but I don't know if the woman probably made a pass on her husband or she said, but I said I'm not gonna be a part of this because she's not up to no good, and I see where this could go. And if she says one thing that's offensive, it's like it will infiltrate and then it goes into some other territory. So we're gonna just depart this. So that's what happened. So I agree with time, and time is right in the regular, but I used it from a different angle because opportunists use vulnerability even in a spiritual setting. So if you're having a spiritual conversation with someone and you're trying to get uplift, you're not in this debate men and women or debate your back. This is what was opportunist. So I was like, I'm not going for that. So I felt the couple should have set boundaries. I know it's tough to tell grown people that you shouldn't what you shouldn't say. But when we have social media, when we have platforms, and we have you have WhatsApp, and you have people sending all kinds of stuff, you don't want to attract the wrong kind of situation. You don't, you know. So people will be opportunists to try to play and ply on you, and if you don't stand up for it, you could get caught. That's an opportunist too. You just don't think of it in the church. You know, think about it. So many people get hoodwinked doing the right thing in the settings that you couldn't. Okay, you'll be surprised. Even in the church settings, you can get hoodwinked. You can get opportunists can get you. So just saying. I'm gonna be on for about 10 more minutes because I gotta get myself up. I gotta do some stuff to get up on up. Appreciate everybody. This was some good conversation today too, as usual. Every time is on. Time always be giving me some time to give me some good topics. And good one by Charlene too. It was a much appreciated. Tia had some good quote. Everybody had some good chimes today. We covered a wide range of topics today. We sure did. That's why I always enjoy being on here too. Well, they doing what they been doing. I mean, they looked at Al Sharp, they look at Jesse, they look at Joel Osteen. I mean, ain't nothing new. Everybody ain't like Billy Graham, and you had Jim Baker, and you had everybody like Robert Schuller. But what's the other one? You had a lot of them. I can't think of the other one right now. But people are human at the end of the day. But the lifestyle and what they get away with is another story. So, TD Cakes and Kirk Franklin. I saw Kirk Franklin at the BET Awards. That was a trip too, because Kevin Hart said, "Don't twerk up here on this stage." I was cracking up. I mean, it'd be wilding out there and be faking the funk too. Because I lost a lot of respect for Kirk Franklin, not because of his want to be gyrating and stuff, but like when R. Kelly situation, like he don't know him now. I'm like, what kind of minister are you? Oh yeah, they were. Jimmy Stewart. It was that Stewart one. He was the one. Yep. It was back, and it's a lot of. It's always been glitzy, and the thing about it is, it's just another bought and paid system. That's all. Another plantation. Jimmy Stewart. I know you're talking about Jimmy Swagger. Jimmy Swagger. That's who it was. Remember he got caught busted out the. I sinned it. I remember I watched that on TV. I cracked up, all teary eyed. I'm like, most of them do it anyway, though. They're the gatekeepers for the cheeks for checks, so you know what you expect. I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah, I remember that too, because my grandma used to be glued watching that mess. I said, "You watching that old fake mess?" And she was looking all appalled when he got busted crying. Like, oh, I'm like, really? I was like, really? I remember being a kid. Reverend Ike used to be on the radio talking about, "Don't come to my church if you ain't got $5." And he had that fresh perm like Jackie Wilson, and had the Cadillacs and Ebony magazine. I mean, they always been running game. Jesse Jackson used to hang out at the Playboy Mansion with Cosby. What you doing at the Playboy Mansion, good Reverend? Al Sharpton was all permed out, snitching against them. I mean, come on And though I like Farrakhan, he be hanging with all them rappers. I'm like, these cats is all into some form of entertainment because it is entertainment at the end of the day, and they get paid to look the other way. So I mean, it is tax deducted. You can go anywhere in the world with it. But yeah, I remember that just like yesterday. Rodman, because he beat that finals against the Sonics. He won 2 games. Worthy was a component that worked out really well. But he, as great as he was, and he was great, Rodman was something that was different because he's rebounding, his playmaking. You couldn't teach that. So I have to say Rodman on that one. You know, Worthy better overall player, but what Rodman did for Chicago, they don't win without him. Hmm. Mike Hammer, yeah, all that stuff. Mhm. Sometimes in Fantasy Island too, because I watched some more episodes with Tattoo and Mr. Rourke. That'd be some real tea drop that I didn't think you don't think about at the time, but yeah, Robin changed the landscape. Worthy was bad. I mean, don't get it twisted, but he had to do is just play within the system. But Rodman had to compartmentalize being undersized, hustle the balls, steal the balls, get in other teams' head, get physical, and do all kinds of things to disrupt because they were undersized team. Now, with Fantasy Island more so than the Love Boat, because Fantasy Island had some real storylines that was kind of like Wicked if you think about it in hindsight. They had some interesting shows that now you be looking at it like they was telling you tales. The Love Boat was cool for what it was, but Fantasy Island had some real interesting twists though. You look at it different than I did back in the day. That's all I'm gonna say. So, well, I think we didn't have as many distractions as you got now, and also people wrote better. Um, I think that people were really trying to challenge you, and for better or for worse, that's what it was. Mm, he's in an argument though, but Bird Parish McHale. Mm, and then if you go into Golden State with Steph Durant, Clay, for what he had to do, yeah, because gotta remember something. Bosch would have been closer if Miami had the kind of defense Chicago had. I like Chips. Manu was special, but Ryman, no, the what he did, he won. He was the difference when they lost Horace Grant. They had to get him, and that was the steal for them. They don't win those 3 chips if they don't have Rodman. So he was big in that regard. But again, his was a different type of situation. But I can't say if I doing Bird, McHale, and Parrish, nah, because either one of those guys. So I got 3 more minutes before I'm gonna roll out. But Cedric Maxwell wasn't there on the '86 Celtics team that was part of the Big Three. I said Bird, Parrish, and McHale, and Robin wasn't seeing that. So there you go. And then if I wanted to make an argument for Golden State situation with Curry, Durant, Clay, I could make a case for that one. I could make a subtle case for that one. So it all depends which way I wanted to go. Cedric was there before that came on though. He was on the '81 championship team. He wasn't there when they made that run in the mid '80s. Okay, I think we just about that's about it. So people got quiet, so I think we'll just about call it even right there. Okay, I think I'll call it a day. I don't see nobody coming back through. Appreciate everybody coming through. Appreciate you, man. Let's do it tomorrow. Thank you as always for coming through. And I'll be on probably about the same time tomorrow. It was great talking to you. Great conversation. Bring them questions. Bring the chat. Stay up. Stay blessed. Stay peaceful. Appreciate you all.